Right. Well, with something, it looks like Mitja is not here yet. Well, I hope he will come in later, because I'm very anxious to learn about the public cloud adoption in the eastern region of Europe. But then again, possibly someone from the audience, which is from the Eastern Europe section, may be helpful in this matter. All right, talking about public cloud adoption, you probably all have heard Carl Christian Boer about the European Cloud Strategy, where the cloud partnership is all about that public cloud adoption. And last night, the people who were at the award gala heard Ken Ducatel from DG Connect speak also about the 3 pillars for cloud adoption for the public sector. And that's the main reason why they got handed over all the award-winning cases from that public sector. Amongst us on the panel, we have 4 people from very different countries, and I hope that they are able to share some insights on their government plans for public sector adoption. And well, you're probably in the flow to begin with. So I'd love to give the word to Jörg Mecke and talk us to what's happening in Germany.
Yes. So in Germany, we have, I think, about 3 layers of public sector data centers. It's a municipal environment. It's a federation of countries in Germany. So we have all the countries like Baden-Württemberg or Lower Saxony or Berlin, and we have the state of Germany, and there are several cloud infrastructure POCs in place. I think it's there are not so many projects implemented already, and hosted by the German Ministry of Business. There's an initiative for to build a German trusted cloud. So that is what they want to bring in place, that we have in Germany a trusted cloud where all the customers can trust in. But I think the public cloud for the public sector and the community cloud from the public sector is just started this year by the KRWBF.
Okay. Well, then Alain Garnier, on about what's happening in Europe.
Yeah, maybe present the company quickly.
Yeah.
Just to say, so Jamespot, do you hear me? No. There. Okay, so I'm going to do the way.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay. Oh. You have to be. So yeah, so I'm the co-founder of Jamespot. Jamespot is a French company, 100% SaaS for social business networks. So inside company to make collaboration, or outside company to make better sales, better organization. And we were winner last year of the best public project cloud. So yeah, it's particularly, we know this sector of public and the question of cloud, because in France, to get directly into the debate, it's a big issue for today, the cloud. I mean, the 2 days we have heard people we have seen Numergy, Cloudwatt, big, actors like Orange, like Bull, like SFR are getting into the cloud for now. It's just very fresh. Numergy was just born 1 month ago. And so there is a big concern because there is a problem of money, because there's a problem of trust, and because there's a problem of US supremacy in cloud. So this is there is a huge political landscape. This is first. And after, I would say the project we do, what I see, for instance, we win with a project called ENRX. It was for regional park, park with, they are together on this, and they need to work together in a collaborative way, and the cloud was a solution. So one of the reasons for government or para-government to go into cloud is because it is all in the country and they have to get together. Okay, this is a big drive. The other issue we see is that we work for government price minister. It was a question of accessibility. Very important. When we go into government, each time they say, is your software getting accessible for everyone? So there is another big thing, it is citizen concern. This is one of the questions we had. And in industry, we don't have those questions. They don't ask for us if people who are blind or deaf can use cloud or not. With government, this is a big issue. The third one is security. We had with another, it's called AFCDP. These are people for CNIL. Do you know CNIL in France? It is a very special way of doing a privacy of people. And they make audit of our solution because they wanted to be sure that all the password and all the storage and all the encryption was right. And because the cloud make big fear about the question of privacy. So this is the third one. And the last and not the least, we work with another government. It is ANACT. It is another agency, because there are a lot of agencies in France, and we've got 500 agencies that is para-government staff. And the question was about data backup. And how can I be sure that if I get, with Jamespot for instance, but with another cloud provider it's the same, I'm sure that reversibility will be okay, that I get back all my data after. So this is for me the four factors I've been in the government are really more accurate than for other industry in the French market. That is quite special.
Okay. Okay, I'm David Sjölander. I represent a company from Sweden called Primalogic. We've been developing cloud-based systems mainly for route optimization for a few years now. And for you who were at the Gala Award yesterday, you may know that we have a system for home care planning. And through this we've learned a lot about the legislation about handling personal data, and just to give a few thoughts on how things are working in our country. We have a pretty strict personal data act, but there is not very much support in how to actually handle and follow the act. And my feel is that it's the Swedish Data Inspection Board who does the follow-up on this, and they are more working by trying to identify cases to crack down on right now, and in that way educate us in what we can do and what we can't do. So the last 2 years they have cracked down on a few municipalities and told them that they can't use this and that cloud-based service. And that has led to quite a few municipalities saying, okay, we have no clue on what you're actually telling us, so we'll stay away from anything that starts or ends with cloud. And that has affected us in some way. Luckily enough, the Data Inspection Board recently gave a green light to the Microsoft Azure platform that we are using, saying that this is an okay platform to use for personal data. And this is quite recent information. That will be interesting to see what happens in the country if everyone starts diving into Microsoft Azure just because they've said that this might work. But the support we get is mostly from various competence networking and trade associations where we try and help each other.
Okay, thank you. Richard, please introduce yourself.
Okay. My name is Richard Sykes. Sorry, let's get that working. My name is Richard Sykes. Nowadays I'm an independent advisor. I'll just give you the brief history of the journey for what is known as G-Cloud or government cloud in the UK is shaping. In the mid-2009, when we still had the Labour government, the old Labour government in the UK, a group in the UK Cabinet Office, which is the kind of central administrative lead think tank in the Prime Minister's office, approached Intellect, which is the trade association for the IT, telecoms, electronics industry, of which I was on the board at the time, saying that they believed that this development called the cloud was going to be very important for getting costs out of government services, but they lacked any resource to be able to evaluate it properly, and they asked for a joint exercise with industry. And so between September 2009 and late August 2010, a series of working groups that were co-chaired by an industry lead and a senior civil service servant tackled the whole range of issues to do with the cloud, from the commercial, security, technological, and safety and things like that, and put together a pretty coherent picture of how the government could set about benefiting from the cloud. By the time that work was done, and the reports from it were published a year later and available through the Cabinet Office website, there'd been a change of government to the new coalition government that was in a great hurry to get costs out. Sufficiently great hurry that there was no resource to take the cloud work forward, even though it had a potential to take a lot of costs out. They became very short-term focused. And the work effectively languished for the first year of operation of the coalition government, while they focused on more immediate ways. There were confrontations with the big contractors, at which large sums of money were elicited out of the industry into government coffers, so that the government could claim in its first year that it had got a lot of money in cost reduction. At the end of that year, the finance necessary to begin tackling what was called the G-Cloud, the Government Cloud Program, began to come through. And in September 2010, and then again from experience based on that, a second one in May this year, framework procurement structures were put out that were designed to encourage government departments in central government to begin sourcing services out of the cloud as very broadly defined. Now, this was not a government cloud. This was observance that there were services increasingly available that were being produced in public clouds somewhere. But there was an additional emphasis within this on bringing the role of the small to medium-sized enterprise to the fore, and that the two procurement frameworks were designed very specifically to help ensure that the small to medium-sized enterprise got access to the opportunity. Now, those two frameworks have proved quite successful as starting grounds, but they operate against the backdrop that while the central government, which is made of a number of very powerful departments, has attempted to impose a degree of leadership and discipline on heading in that direction by operating through the government, the CIOs of each of the government departments, there is no central edict that says you must. And what there is a tremendous amount of behaviors in the IT departments, department by department by department, that on the whole, they prefer to do the things they've already done because it gives them greater control. So the move towards the cloud sourcing is still quite a slow process. Another key factor has been that there was a very influential report by a parliamentary committee, Parliamentary Accounts Subcommittee, on how the government buys IT, published initially in June 2011, in which, in a very detailed analysis, they applied the term oligopoly to the existing major suppliers to the government. They suggested that maybe they couldn't quite prove that there was dishonesty at work, but they said the reality is that these big players, HP, CSC, IBM, had got such a strong position that they seemed to pick up all the new business. And since that report was published, there's been a very strong determination at the centre of the government and the Cabinet Office to encourage the arrival of new entrants that are not the oligopoly. There is a presumption against the oligopoly that they are actually bad news. Now, my own personal view as an independent observer on this scene is that a lot of those members of the oligopoly are themselves actually recognizing that their business models are in great trouble. For example, our good friends at HP, very well disguised in the press, I don't know how many of you saw it, actually wrote off half the purchase price of EDS in August. They bought EDS for $14 billion and they wrote off $8 billion of that. That suggests they've got their business model somewhat wrong and they're in difficulties in that area. So there is a presumption in the government to try. Another thing was that there'd been a lot of experience with the previous Labour government of major big IT projects of the type that the oligopoly preferred that had got into trouble. So the new government has run with a very tight guideline that says no project over 100 million sterling will even be considered, and projects under that will be reviewed. So that is the state of play at the moment. What is absent, but there's signs of work beginning to come together, is that the government still operates at the centre with a very large number of inefficient data centres of all different sizes. If you actually were able to, within certain levels of security, move about 80% of government work onto multi-tenanted data centers of the right level of security that were also servicing the enterprise, fast-growing enterprise, public cloud market, and consumer marketplace, you would get a massive reduction in cost of the government doing its computing. And you would present the private sector with some very attractive investment opportunities, because the idea of having a breadth of business that was both government and private sector and consumer all coming out of a single data center that you could optimize against would be a very good investment potential. And that, I think, is going to become the focus for the debate going forward. Also now, you're beginning to get certain units of government. For example, one of the big London boroughs, the London Borough of Hillingdon, which is a unit of local government close to Heathrow Airport, has moved itself onto Google Apps. Now, the best government purchasing deal from the oligopoly for desktop services costs about £450 to £500 a year per desktop, excluding the cost of the machine. Google Apps costs £30, 1/10 of the cost of what the oligopoly regards as the most competitive service it can offer. So the driving force to shift to the new models is pretty strong. That is the state of play.
Thank you, Richard. The last, hang on. I would like the last panel member. You might be to explain what's going on in these regions of Slovenia and explain a little bit more about yourself and why you're on this panel.
Thank you.
And then all questions can be answered.
My name is Mitja Vavpotic. I'm representing a company called Xlab. We're a Slovenian software company. We started building cloud service in 2001, and we used to call it software as a service. It enabled anyone in the world to connect to a distant computer with a few clicks. Nowadays that's called remote desktop or remote access, and it's an industry normal thing. We don't call ourselves an IT company anymore. We are in the service industry and support industry. It's got absolutely nothing to do with IT anymore. I will just relate to Richard. He was talking about UK. We do have a subsidiary in the UK. We are members of Intellect, and I must say that the majority of public customers that we have are in Japan. And they are quite keen on buying the services. They're using them. And we were able to do a similar project that we have many in Japan, also one in Slovenia, and I will talk about it later on.
Okay, very good, thank you. Well, after these short and brief introductions, thank you, panel, for that. I have gathered some questions for you. It's maybe rather awkward to answer because it's even in your country, but it's about your product. But I would first like to have the questions from the audience answered, because I like the interaction between the panelists and the audience. So who's the first? Okay, let's start with Alain.
Can you hear me? It's a question for Richard. You were saying that... Okay.
Let's see if I can get the thing to work. Yes.
You can hear me.
Bit.
Other people cannot hear you behind you,
I see.
so the microphone is better.
Let's see. I hope this. No, still doesn't work. Shout a little louder if possible.
Stand up and press remain informed.
Yeah. You were talking about this borrow from the UK, which has migrated applications on Google Apps. Any idea what kind of applications they did migrate? Business critical applications, or is it just text processing?
It's the full range of desktop services that most of the
Employees. It's the full range of desktop services that most of the employees in the borough uses. Borough is the key unit of local government, so they run all the local services in the area. That is the geographical area of everybody who lives near around Heathrow. They have satisfied themselves on the levels of security and data privacy and data protection that they need, they get with Google Apps capability that they have. Now, I can't tell you the details of that. I don't know if Google Apps had to do some special adjustments for them or not, but the general policy of Google Apps is that you see what you get and you buy what you get. So I think what they've done is to probably, I suspect there's been some degree of adjustment, but I think they've proven that the highly automated model of Google Apps, which is why it's able to offer a very low price, is quite acceptable in local government, despite concerns about security and things in the cloud.
Okay. Satisfactory?
Yeah.
All right. Next question. Yes.
Okay, here's the question for practically all of you. What are the budgets, IT budgets in each of your countries, and what are your personal estimates that transferring and consolidating to cloud will make a change in cost, in percentage or in money?
Well, that's the fourth question. Let's start with Jörg.
I don't know the exact budget for the government in Germany for cloud or for IT, but as far as I know, they are not very interested in public cloud products like Google Apps, not even on Office 365. The CSO of the state Bavaria wrote a paper that everything is okay with Office 365, but no one wants to use it in the government. Or nearly no one. As far as I can analyze the market, there is budget. There is budget for private or community clouds, and as you've seen at the KIVBF, this is a cloud for 500 or 550 municipals or 700 tenants. And I think this is a cloud too. This is a really cloud, but it's not public and it's not hosted in Ireland or Indonesia or anywhere else. It's hosted in Germany, which is very necessary due to the German law to host some data in Germany. They have to be located in Germany, and we have a very special situation that the German law for data security. You can explain it in your own way. So it depends who have to explain the law or to make his decisions on this law. In the southern part of Germany, it's easier than in the northern part. For example, in Hamburg, it's not even allowed to virtualize the servers where you have critical data on. Virtualization is not a secure process. This is in Hamburg. and in Schleswig-Holstein, which is northern part of Hamburg, so nearly Denmark. And it depends on the person. It's not written in the law, but it depends on the person, on the CAO of the country. Yeah.
Remarkable. Well, Alain, could you answer?
About budget, when you see about collaboration tools, for instance, in part of government, there are a big project to sharing files. The price between on 3 years, when you count the full budget in 3 years, was 5 times less in cloud than doing themselves with the server and all what Richard say about the big cost that there will be with classical data centers. 5 times. It's huge. When you count everything, formation, development, implementation, subscription, that is of course important.
So you see 80% cost reduction. That's the point.
Half. Yeah, 80, yeah. But the problem is money is not all. Lobbies is sometimes powerful, and trust. So when you've got a big decision maker, if he has his friend because they have done the same school 20 years time ago first, and the second that he has to take risk with this cloud stuff, has a clue what is this cloud. It is after the cloud there will be Orange. So there is, and this is what I see. That's why EuroCloud is very important, because we see that it's not rational at all. We are dealing about another question of money. At the time at Europe and government don't have money, but the trade-off still, to stay with what's always be done with Big Five. That's what I see in France, for instance.
Thank you.
Sweden, what's your answer to the budget question?
I don't have any figures about budgets. My company has focused on using the cloud as an enabler, bringing technology that hasn't been available for these kind of customers at all. So we're actually competing with pen and paper and cutting costs in the operation that way. Just when we were mentioning Google Apps, that's one of the solutions that the Swedish inspection board has cracked down on in one of the municipalities and said that they don't find it okay to be used.
Richard, UK situation.
The IT budget for central government in UK, which is all the big central government departments in total, is 16 billion sterling. That includes the cost of all the IT staff and everything like that. I think the objective of the current government is to get that down certainly to the order of no more than 10 billion. And within that, they're expecting a lot of costs to come out by moving to the cloud and to high efficiency cloud type operations. I don't believe they will be able to get there without a more determined drive on the underlying computing costs. They have a project called the Public Sector Network, which is doing a lot to drive out the telecoms costs. But that is the order of magnitude of the cost. One of the benefits in the UK, I think, has been that year-long project that laid the foundations for the current work that was done between industry and the government laid to rest a lot of those concerns about security and things like that. Also in the UK, there's a major centre for security in Cheltenham, which is where a lot of British spy operations and security operations, very big computing power, and there's a lot of expertise there. That helps guide the government's thinking in this area. So I think there is a more measured view. And as I said, there is a security structure UK government uses called incident level, in which it measures the severity of a security failure by the damage done by the leakage going. IL0 up to IL6, you can gather the game more severe. 80% of government staff sits in IL3 or below. And the view now increasingly is that can be handled on secure multi-tenanted data centers in the private side.
We are fighting against gasoline and phone. So in our case, the savings are 50%. That's sort of the minimum. meaning supplying support via our service against driving or telephoning with the guy and talking to him. Budgets, nobody really cares. You show the 50% saving, they're gonna buy except if they have the personal relationship, etc., etc.
Okay, so all has still a lot to do with trust. Looking at the time, knowing that at least 2 people of this panel are on a very strict time constraint, there is room for 1 or 2 more questions.
Very straightforward. Public procurement rules, how do you manage with them? Because I don't know how it's going in your countries, because you both France and Germany are dealing strongly, UK also. We have in Poland an obsession in the state and local governments of the public procurement procedure, which means that more than 14,000 euro you have to organize a tender. In the tender specification, there is no cloud, no, even nothing like that. And in addition, we have this huge envelope of money, 67 billion euro in total, to be spent to the end of 2015 from structural funds. So all these expenses for informatization are going from this money. So it's a crazy stuff. So if they do not, first, if the administration is not trained how to prepare tender specification, including any kind of cloud stuff and so on, they will never do it because they are too afraid, because there are so many problems with HP, Microsoft, and so on for lobbying, maybe more than that. So I will not say much. So this is a problem. How are you dealing with that? Because they have all the time controls from European Commission, all these central security office, and so on.
So Alain already driving for the microphone.
Because I've got a funny story to tell you. We had a magnificent call for tender from finance government in France. It was a social business network, so it's me, in SaaS. So I say, oh, it's for me. So we make the answer. But when we have to say what we have to answer to, the first technical question was, how many times are you going to migrate? How are you going to install your SaaS in our data center? The other question was, what is the price of your maintenance? So the full, as you say, all the call from tender was completely for an on-premise system. We call them and they say, oh yes, no, but it's SaaS, I understand, yeah, it's very modern, but you have to get into the good element, and we want your system to be installed. And this is completely crazy. So we just jump out of this call for tender. We didn't answer, and because it was schizophrenia. They wanted SaaS on cloud, but they wanted to be installed on premise. And you see what is the...
If I may add, this is sort of a normal question we get every time. And of course, we also solve it. Companies, I would say all our large customers, they require a private cloud. So they say we want to install it only in these data centers, only in these lands, and that's what you need to do. So you need to set up a private cloud, that's it.
Yeah, but private cloud with, installation.
Was the first one.
Yes.
So sorry. It was green flashing. So in Germany, at the project, as I mentioned, okay, KWF, it's not a problem because we are not the hoster. KWF is the hoster, and all the tenants or customers are the owners too. So this is not a problem of procurement. But in other cloud call for tenders on the German government, not at KWF, I will say, there was a problem that they want to buy the licenses. So, for example, I showed you Xenos service data management, and that's its license per month, per usage, and so on. And they said, no, for our cloud solution, we want to buy every license. And we said, hey, you have a better model. You have only to pay what you use. No, we want to own this. It's a cloud. No, we want to own this. So it's a problem in the head of the administrators of the procurement department, and I think the risk is, if you use public cloud, to bring the risk of vendor lock-in in your procurement process. So what's at the end of the contract? Will you be able to go to another service provider? Will you really be able? And this is not easy to answer. It's easy for hosted exchange or something like that. But there are other topics that are quite harder.
Okay. So Richard Sykes, moving to the microphone as well.
We have, please.
Yeah. I will. We have the great problem in the UK also of the European Community laws requiring tender, what they call the OJU notices. The way it is tackled is by these framework procurements, in which a broad framework is set up and subject to the OG competition. And providing you have signed into that framework at the time it is launched, and that framework is open for companies across Europe to sign in for it, then there is very substantial freedom of maneuver how to operate within that framework. Both of those frameworks have been very specific in encouraging sourcing from the cloud, and been very specific about the fact that anything that is cloud-based will be very welcome. So that is how the OJU process is tackled in our case, and I think successfully.
Okay. One last reaction.
Till this year, I must say Slovenia was in the same as Cuba, and this year, with the huge help of IT department of the state, there is a two-tier process in tenders. The first tender is only about what needs to be done, and all the vendors fight among themselves what needs to be done. And the result of the first tender, and the one who is issuing the tender knows that this is going to cost them about 10% of the whole tender. The result of the first tender is the call for the second tender, which is asking who will do this.
Okay. Gentlemen, I would like to thank you for taking your seats on the panel. It's 5 minutes past the time, but I hope the two of you can still manage to use plenty of time. Thank you for participating. Thank the audience for participating actively in the debate. And I guess that from a public cloud point of view, given the licenses and installations on premises, we have a lot of evangelism to do during public cloud. Thank you all. Yeah.